Welcome back. Now, I don't know how many posh coffees you've had today. Me, I've had about 4, and if you're like me, you've probably not thought much about what happens to all the waste when you're done, the coffee granules, the cups. Well, my next 2 guests have. They are obsessed by waste and the opportunity it actually creates. To them in a moment, but first, some of the stats, because it's thought that in London alone, it produces 200,000 tonnes of coffee granules every year. Do the maths across the globe and you get an idea of what we're talking about. In the US, 25 trillion coffee cups are thrown away each year. The amount of wood and paper disposed is enough to heat 50 million homes for 20 years. Staggering, some of the numbers now. Well, joining me now are 2 men who've spotted different opportunities. Arthur Key is the founder of BioBean, which recycles old coffee grounds, and Peter Goodwin from Simply Cups, a company recycling the coffee cups. Peter, let me bring you in because you're doing a different area of stuff that ordinarily just gets wasted, and that's to do with the coffee cup. I mean, it's extraordinary that actually no one is actually plugging that market. I mean, nobody is doing anything with cups. Is that right?
No, that's correct. And we started Simply Cups in 2014, really to provide a solution for the billions of paper cups that were currently either being sent to landfill or incineration in the UK alone. So we had to find a way of, you know, unlike the coffee grounds, the coffee cup's a bit more complex to get hold of. You know, we've got to get this separate from the other materials within the waste stream. So first off, we set about how do we get these coffee cups, and
I'll come back to some of the difficulties in a moment, but I want to just get our cameras to zoom in on the cups themselves, because that's what you recycle, and actually the tray is also one of the things that actually you make out of the recycled product, isn't it?
Absolutely. We've partnered with some polymer scientists, a company called Nextech, and an eco product designer and manufacturer at a short walk. And the collaborative now, we can recover paper cups from the marketplace and actually turn them back into products, and actually use coffee cups to displace virgin plastics in the production of new products. So ultimately, creating a demand and creating a use for these materials is how we solve these problems. We can be good at collecting them, but actually if we can turn them into a valuable raw material, then guess what? They're more valuable to get out.
I mean, how do you actually even accumulate all the cups themselves? I mean, they don't come in one stash. Exactly. So, I mean, how did you get around that particular part of the problem?
Well, you're right, and the conventional or traditional waste infrastructure we have in the company cannot extract the paper cups. So the only way of doing it was going to large generators of cups, maybe the BBC being one of them, and trying to work with employees to say, OK, we can get value from this material, but we need your help in collecting these cups separately within the office. And then we can take them, we can aggregate that from all the customers we collect and turn them into a valuable resource. So it requires a bit of work from the consumer or the employee, but on the large part, people are very supportive.
It's interesting. I was reading just a couple of quotes from Arthur, actually, talking about sustainable projects, and he was making the point that actually you've got to make them cheaper, you've got to make them more attractive rather than hammer people over the head. I mean, as a business model, does it make money?
Yeah, and it has to. And I think the fundamental thing, it has to make money, it has to be commercial. I mean, if something isn't commercial, it's not sustainable by its very nature. So what we need to do is we need to understand, we need to have innovation to work out how we manage the flow of resource better. And if we can manage the flow of resource better and create demand, actually it creates quite a compelling business model. And we've seen a whole range of opportunities represented by what is now being called the circular economy, which Arthur and I would say we are pioneers of. So yes, it has to make economic sense, and it will.
Yeah, I mean, this is a global problem and a global opportunity. Is there much interest in what you're doing outside of these shores?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, coffee drinking on the go has absolutely expanded, you know, in many countries around the world. We've had a lot of interest from the other large coffee drinking nations. We've actually just launched the scheme in Australia, in Sydney, where there's been, you know, a similar interest from the consumer to do this. And from a scalability perspective and from a commercial perspective as a business person, yeah, undoubtedly, there is huge opportunity to replicate this worldwide. And that's really where we see you know, Arthur's dream of powering buses in London. We'd like to recycle every coffee cup in the world as well.